All right, welcome to the Spooky Screen, where five best friends review horror movies and television shows. For the next several weeks, we are reviewing Showtime Network's breakout hit, Yellowjackets. To remind our audience, Yellowjackets is a show about a group of high school girls who survive out in the wilderness after their plane crashes. Meanwhile, their adult counterparts grapple with the aftermath of that traumatic and mysterious ordeal 25 years later. Today, we will be reviewing episode 5, which is titled Blood Hive. For those who haven't seen episode 5 yet, we recommend that you pause this episode, go to Showtime Network, stream episode 5, and then come back. We will be diving into the episode with plenty of spoilers to be revealed. So, this is your warning before we proceed forward. And you're welcome. We're going to go through episode 5 spoiler synopsis. So in episode 5, we begin with the girls out in the wilderness. We have learned that most of the girls are currently on their periods, and everyone is feeling cramped out, except Shauna. Meanwhile, Jackie, the de facto leader of the soccer team from episode 1, is now the new black sheep as she continues to slack while the rest of the team puts in work around camp. We also learn a few new things about Van and Taissa being a secret couple. Natalie and Travis start to catch feelings while the animals around them start to catch bullets. I did not write that. That was not pre-scripted. Jackie suggests holding a seance. I mean, Jackie, feeling pretty useless at this point, recommends holding a seance in the same attic where they found the dead man. And the girls all agree to it. They come up with harmless, silly high school girl questions to ask the dead for their own enjoyment. But then Lottie is visited by a presence taken over by it and starts to utter incomprehensible things in French and then says one sentence in English, "You must spill blood." That's when Laura Lee, the hero of our episode, comes into the attic with her Bible, yeets it at Lottie, and compels the power of Christ in her and drives the possession away from her body.
Amen.
Raise those
the
hands
only
up,
good
Johnny.
thing that's happened on this show so far, huh?
Raise those hands up, Johnny. Shauna, at the end of the episode, then is revealed to be pregnant. In the present day timeline, there's a couple things happening. Very quick. Kevin confirms to Natalie that Travis was clean when he hung himself, but they discover through photos in his email that are hacked by some friend of a friend that Misty knows, that there is an outline of the symbol that we see in the forest that is drawn on the floor with melted candle wax, where Travis was hanging. Shauna continues to hang out with Adam. They run into her daughter at a club accidentally, and they have a heart-to-heart about Jackie. We still do not know yet whether for sure Jackie is dead or alive in the present day. And then lastly, Taissa experiences harassment by graffiti on her home. She trails her political opponent by a very wide margin. But then she discovers a paint can under her son's bed. When he refuses to answer what happened, Taissa decides that the pressure is getting to her family. She must quit the race, but decides against it at the very last moment. She's in it to win it, and she's going to fight dirty to win it all. So that is episode 5, Blood Hive. All right. So gimmick was everyone bring back your episode 1 item, which I see everyone wearing. Bring back your weapon. Hammer, knife for Johnny, axe for Nick. And then I asked Johnny to bring a Bible with him so he could throw it at any of us if we start to speak in French. But
that is my item, and you knew that. So
yeah. I asked the rest of the group to bring one more piece of clothing or object that they would bring to a hypothetical seance. So I just I'm going to be wearing this hoodie from now on because it has a little high school logo, and so I feel like it channels like a high school like seance slumber party type thing. So that's my outfit moving forward. No, what's this thing that you got hanging off of your chin?
Does that say Coachella?
Yeah, it's
So,
Coachella Valley High School.
oh.
Oh
Is it a
my
real high school?
goodness. Oh,
So
It's a real town.
I've
something's wrong
decided
with California.
to okay. I've decided to take a fanny pack and hang it from my face instead of my fanny because it just seemed like it's easier to get to when I'm like eating stuff or something, and it keeps my neck warm. You know, it's like a scarf slash a backpack. I think it's an.
I
I
thought
think
you were
it's
gonna say
a
that the
utility
salt.
scarf. It's a utility scarf,
I
basically.
thought you were gonna say the salt being in a close proximity to your mouth and nose would keep spirits from going inside of you.
I could do that too. Well, that's like its third, third
Purpose.
option.
He opens a
Third
pocket,
purpose
blows
is
into it, and the salt just flies up to
I have
protect.
salt in this
All you
fanny
needed
pack,
was
which
this,
I can
Noah.
use to protect spirits from.
All you needed was this. You just show up and you
No,
just
no
one of these.
possessions happening with this fanny utility scarf on.
All right, thank you, Noah. David,
You're welcome.
what did you bring with you for
It might
episode
be
5?
a little chilly when we're contacting the spirits, so I brought a blanket from the plane crash. You know how they give you those little blankets?
Yes,
Or at least
but
they used to?
the foil. You mean the foil blankets?
No, they
No,
used to
they
give you
give
like
you like
legit like
Oh, I
fleecy
see. I thought
blankets.
okay. I thought you were
really
talking
cheap
about like
little blankets.
Yeah, it's like
yeah. Got it. Okay, Nick, what the hell are you wearing?
So you said seance, and the only thing I could think of for raising the dead would be like ceremonial robes for it. So I bought my robe. That's the only
What's
thing
your
I
robe?
can think
What's
of.
your robe for, Nick?
This is
You
my
wear it in the
bathrobe,
morning.
actually.
What's your bathrobe?
Yeah.
Does it have dragons on it?
You get out of the shower with no clothes and you throw that thing on. That must feel nice.
Yeah.
It's all
It
satin
feels fantastic.
silk.
Yeah, I
It
won't
looks
lie.
nice, but it does look like
Can we get a close up of those dragons?
dark magic robe.
can you do like a stand and
I
swirl?
am not convinced that
There's
you're
something
not a
on the back.
Satanist. I think Noah and Nick might
Right?
actually be Satanists.
Something on the
Why?
back.
Oh
Ooh, I
man,
like that.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
I
You
got
look
this
like,
like 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
you're like a
Intricate designs.
you're like a yakuza leader.
So like that was the only thing I could think of. I was like, when you want to have like honor the dead, you put on your ceremonial robes and you
It
speak.
works. It works for me. Oh, there's
All
Paper
right.
Man. All right, the paper mask that
Always
Dave has
useful.
designed. All right, we're gonna dive right into likes and dislikes, and I'm gonna give the floor to Johnny. So tell us what you like. Give us a well thought out reason. Be specific. Boil down your reason to the ultimate why.
Okay. So I will say that I like this episode, but I'm going to put a big but on it.
Mm-hmm.
If the next episode doesn't launch into outer space, I think the show has lost my confidence. Even if it does it later, it is starting to become filler. Like, and I agree. I know everyone's been saying it. I've given it a long runway. They had the opportunity to do a little more here, and I think the seance was actually not quite enough. It wasn't enough. It was too obvious. I feel like the writing is getting a little bit predictable and obvious, and I still believe the red herrings. I still believe it's all red herrings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get into why I think that. We can get into some of my thoughts about that. But I am losing my patience. But I thought this episode did take a significant step, and a lot happened. I thought it was kind of well coordinated. So I liked the episode, I think, but only with the anticipation that the next episode is about to drop the hammer for me.
Could you
So if it
give us like?
doesn't, I'm going to look back at this episode as a failure.
Could you give us a 20-second explanation of what you're looking for next episode?
I am looking for a little clarity on the mystery, because at this point the mystery is the invisible line, like cord that's tying everything together, right?
Mhm.
It's tying their future and their past and all their relationships, and right now we have no idea what it is. It's just completely unknown, and it's getting to the point where it's like it's making the plots not coordinated or even interesting, and so it's like it's very tedious to watch, like
Mhm.
without knowing this. It's not interesting to watch 5 hours of TV without getting a sense of it. And the seance was too. It's not enough. That's like easy tricks. Like, okay, you something blew through a window, and it was like another warning. Like, no, you have to get into some of the meat. If you're not willing to get into it soon, like, it's not interesting. That's my take. But I did think that it was enough for me to like the episode because I was like, okay, I think they're teeing me up for the next one. So I'm hoping,
Got it.
really hoping.
Okay.
So like my judgment is getting a little ahead of itself, but because it's so contingent on what happens next.
All right. Thank you, Nick. Why don't we go to you?
Um, it's hard to give an opinion because to me, Johnny really nailed it on the head. Honestly, I liked this episode
And
more
with
than
a
I liked.
knife.
I liked this episode more than I liked other episodes. But my fear is that the next episode will not hold up. I just because it's already proven to me that it can't, and I'm just afraid that it's going to disappoint me again. Although to say things I did, why I like this episode, I mean, there was more plot. We got to learn more about what the girls are doing. We got more footage of the girls being in the wild. We got more character development from them. We got more development in their relationships with one another. So that was good. We finally really got something to sink our teeth into about these girls. Finally, 5 episodes in, and that's what's really disappointing for me. Shauna's plot finally became interesting when she was just zinging her daughter the whole time. Like, it's about time that B story became interesting. But this show has a track record of having one really good episode for three really crappy ones.
3 mediocre. Okay. Thank you, Nick. So you did like it, but
I'm just waiting
contingent.
for the other shoe to drop.
Okay. Dave, what about you?
All right. I actually wrote this down, but I can't read it in the dark. I'm gonna keep my motif going.
That's your
All right.
own fault.
This
All right. My
this
intro
was-
argument is
all right. Since episode 2, this is probably my most liked and most frustrated episode. I felt, to use like metaphors that Noah so fondly use, it was like seeing a beautiful floor routine of like the like gymnastics or like sports or whatever, and then at the end they just like give up and do a very cliche, and they like don't stick the landing. Whatever ratio to not me, whatever ratio to time in the past and time in the future this episode had, I feel like this was their golden ratio. There was like, I said, like, since episode 2 we haven't spent this much time in the past, and it was really nice to get to know characters that we're supposed to care about. And I think I'm more liking this format of the episode than the previous 2, because the future timelines are more accents and not like the real meat, which I think is how it should. I think is how they should stick to it. I think there should be little reveals in the future that automatically that make what we're watching in the past more exciting. And my ultimate frustration in the episode is really everything with Misty. It's just, I mean, I know it's probably a red herring, and I know she's probably like up to good and she's trying to like solve the mystery, but with the camera and the little scene at the end where she's eating like popcorn and how she put the pictures together too so quickly, I'm like, it's in my mind it's like it's very cliche. I don't know. It just felt very like stock standard. Like, dun dun dun. Oh, one of the girls is actually a psychopath.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, David. She brought in the expert who can hack. Like, she is always the one who's bringing in new information.
Yeah,
She's
she put
always
the
the
together
one bringing in the information to the group. And I think, I mean, it's just like she's the one who had Travis. She's the one who had Travis's idea. Like, she's always the one,
Yeah.
one. And it's just like getting a little bit on the nose, and it's like it's not going to be anything if it is anything, and if it's not anything, then it was uninteresting and a red herring. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's only so many times you can do Boy Cries Wolf. You know?
I think it's leading towards that she is recreating the scenario in the wilderness where she was useful, where she had power, and now she's back in the real world, and she's
And that's what they want you to think.
all right.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I'm like sure episode 10 is gonna like
You got
flip
your
it all in his
theories.
ass. But right now, that's how I felt, and it just felt very frustrating because the beginning of this episode felt so strong and had so much gas, and then it just kind of like, oh, of course,
Petered out.
of course, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Noah.
Yes, me. So, I liked this episode. But a lot of it has to do with me not liking the previous 2 episodes. So it kind of feels like, it's
The
a
bar
high
is low.
after 2 lows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the reason why I think I liked this episode a lot was because you spent a lot of time in the past, as everyone said, in the Canadian wilderness. And to me, that's the more interesting timeline. There's just so much more happening. There's more mystery. There's more power dynamics between the girls because they're together. Whereas in the future timeline, they're all apart doing their own thing. Where in the past, also, not only are we getting more of the character dynamics and all that, but I'm also seeing something new I haven't seen in a survival story before, and which I thought was really interesting, was all the girls being on their period and how they would handle that being lost in a wilderness. Like, that's something I've never seen before in a TV show, especially a survival horror show or movie. And I just found that was interesting to theme your whole episode around. Like, it was just a clever concept of letting things play out. Like, so now we're lost in the wilderness. What happens if this happens? It felt it brought some reality and some grounding to the show, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
However, this episode to me further grounds my belief that the future timeline is utter trash and it should have been removed. It just feels like the past is like a hike through the wilderness. You're exploring, you're getting spooked, you're figuring out all this stuff, whereas the future is like being on a treadmill, not moving at all. Like, all the characters have literally been in the same exact spots from the beginning of the show to now, and that's incredibly frustrating. Like, maybe they've moved the tiniest bit in their plot, but they've really, from where their goals have begun, it hasn't transitioned at all, and that's incredibly frustrating. And on top of that, I agree with everyone else that the seance is easy pickings. It's something we've seen many times. I enjoyed it because, it's set in this show that's, has a backdrop, a concept that's different. So they're bringing a seance into that, which I liked. But I think the seance should have happened in episode 3. Kind of like what Johnny was saying, it happened too late. Like, if we didn't have the trashy future timeline, we could have brought this back to, closer to episode 3 and got things going a little bit more. Like, it just feels too late at this point because you've stretched the interesting story out too far, that I'm starting to, like, not really care, if that makes any sense at all.
I follow. Yeah, that makes sense.
So like I said, it's a like, but it's a barely like, and it's kind of a begrudging like.
Yeah.
I want to like this show so much, but I feel like it's really bogging me down. It's really, it's messing with my
100%.
groove.
I feel like this
I
series
agree.
that we're doing is an interesting study on the medium of TV and binging
Yes.
versus episodic breaks, and
100%.
and if that's just destroyed our minds to be able to enjoy this.
Now, Steven, did you pick this up when it was still week to week, or were there like a couple of episodes that you were able to binge?
I was able to binge a couple episodes.
Oh,
Yeah.
must be nice.
There was like
nice.
you got your footing, and then you're like, okay, now I can drip feed myself.
Is it weird hearing us
exactly.
all going on talking about it on a weekly basis?
You know what it feels like? It feels like you're all Jack Torrances stuck in The Shining, and I'm forcing you to watch each episode, one episode a week, and you guys are going crazy about the anticipation because it's not moving fast enough for you guys. It's very interesting, and I have my own opinions, but I'm not going to share them.
Yeah, good.
How many episodes are there again? 8 or 10? I always forget.
I think
there's 10 episodes.
10? Okay.
10 episodes, yeah.
25.
So, okay. Thank you for sharing. Wow. So pretty much everyone is on the same page at this point. You liked it, but it's because the previous 2 episodes were not great, and you don't feel a lot of confidence moving forward into this season.
Yeah, especially at the halfway point in our season, right?
Right, exactly.
It feels like a quarter way point.
Yeah,
say
this is
that
the
again,
episode
Noah?
where they
What was
really
that? No,
needed
you
to.
broke out.
You broke
I
up for a
said
second.
it's the halfway point of the season, but where we are at in the story, it feels like the 1/4 mark, like the quarter mark.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
What were you going to say, Dave? I'm sorry, we cut you off.
No, I'm just saying I was agreeing. Like they really need to hit the gas
Yeah.
hard. I thought they were going to do that this episode, which they kind of did, but
I don't want them to hit the gas hard to save face, though. That's my issue. Like, they're just going to start hitting the gas to ham fist any and everything they can in to make the plot relevant and interesting, and it's going to be so apparent, in my opinion.
I think like if it was a normal show, I mean, I would watch it through just because I'm obnoxious about watching a series. But like most people might have dropped off at this point.
But they
I
haven't,
agree.
right? They haven't. That's the
I
thing.
mean, I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, maybe some haven't. I mean,
it actually
a lot of people I
increased.
might know. Well, it's increased because of the hype at the end. Like once you're like, well, you have to stay around for the ending. It's like,
No.
okay.
That's not what I'm saying. People weren't. There wasn't like word of mouth. I'm saying that people were tuning in week over week, and that the audience was growing. Once it hit, I'm looking at the numbers right now.
Is that based on science, lad?
Once it hit episode 5, it starts to tick up episode after episode in regards
In
to the
popularity.
number of millions of viewers. Yeah.
I'm not sure
But-
if they follow through on something, because
So
I
yeah,
just realized this would be a much better weapon because it's a water bottle, but I can also fill it with water and then use it as a
I
bludgeoning
thought
tool.
about that last week too.
Oh, my
I have my
goodness.
water bottle, and I was like, wait a
what if it
minute.
gets punctured?
All
right.
Steal. Go
I
ahead.
failed us.
this is the reason why Noah got eaten by wolves.
No,
because
this
he
is
didn't know-
why I made this into a scarf / backpack. Like you gotta use the double purpose. Like we're
just
stuck
want
in the
Noah-
wilderness.
I just want Noah to just like at one point just like devoured the salt, just like, just, like go ham on it. And just
All right,
For the
so I'm
wolves.
gonna move to a couple questions about this episode.
Do it.
The first thing is it's a full lurch into the supernatural with Lottie
Yeah.
getting possessed, right? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, what's
I-
her medication? That
Can I
they
go?
allude to?
some
It's
type of mental.
lorazepam or something to that
Yeah,
effect.
that's
Yeah,
like- that's
see-
But
like
I'll let
psychotic.
I'll let Noah go first.
I
and
did
I'll pick
raise
on you,
my
Dave.
I did raise my
Okay.
hand, fellows. I did.
Fair.
fair enough.
It's kind of, again, it's frustrating because the show is, you're saying that it's lurching full into the supernatural, but at the same time the show doesn't want to fully go balls deep into the supernatural. They
Really?
what's the word I'm
Noah?
looking? Sorry, what's the word? They hedge their bets. They hedge their bets. They give her pills, right, to make it
Yeah.
seem like she has some sort of psychosis, and she's in French class, but she's not doing well. Like it's like they
Yep,
don't
you-
want
classic.
you to fully go. They don't want to fully convince you that it's supernatural. At the same time, they want you to go, oh, it might not be. And I don't really get the point of
Red
that.
herrings. It's red herring.
But
They
I don't
just
get the
constant-
point of that for the story. Like, is it? I don't know. I'm just
because they
saying.
want you to
like,
be confused the
Yeah,
whole
she's-
time.
Yeah, she's
I'm
the
just
most mentally
saying,
unstable.
yes, it felt more supernatural, but at the same time, someone could go, no, well, you got to remember this, you got to remember that, you got to remember that. Like, it's not
Yep,
fully,
yep.
you're not fully 100% in yet.
I don't know. I think that the horror movie effect of some presence moving into the window was
Yeah,
pretty.
I can see that.
It was pretty
All the
definitive,
candles
right?
going out. All the candles going out.
Like this
But
wasn't
then-
just Lottie's imagination.
But
That's
why
how I
does the
interpret it.
But then why
we didn't
does the
see
show
anything.
do that? Why does it do it with the pills and the French class thing? Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
She's
It's
really a
probably part
psychic.
of it's probably part of why they doubt it for a certain amount of time.
I was gonna say it's probably for an in-world doubt. They're gonna be like, no, she's just
Yeah.
off her meds. She's not really possessed, because they have
Right.
to try to hold on to some
Yeah.
sense of sanity.
She's French or something.
I do
don't
think that the show needs to tread very carefully. When I saw the pills, I kind of rolled my eyes because I was like, oh, she's going to be the crazy one. And episode 5 just so happens she's the crazy one. And I just
Yeah.
think that shows have had this history of like, oh, you take pills? We're going to make you the crazy one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think that it needs to be careful there with that. But yeah, Noah.
I'm sorry, I'm taking up another time slot.
It's okay.
But I just want to say, yes, we get the supernatural. Yes, we get a seance. But unlike the girls getting their periods and having to boil the rags in a shared pot, something that's original, the seance felt completely unoriginal, and I wish they just did something a little different than what we usually see. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think the whole seance thing, like all those seance movies were like super popular in the 90s, like Charmed. Um, there was another one where like witches and doing seances at like
The
things at
Coven
like
or something.
sleepovers. Yeah, like the Coven were like very popular at parties in the 90s. So I think they're dipping back into the nostalgia of older people watching the show, be like, oh my god, I remember doing that
No,
at a
I get that. I
sleepover.
just meant like the actual possession where she
I don't.
speaks in another language and then she hits her head
We
against a
don't.
window.
I
Like,
don't
it's
know
just
if we
not
need
interesting.
nostalgia. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if we need nostalgia. Oh, sorry, Nick.
Oh no, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just
Go
raising my
ahead,
hand.
Nick.
So what I think of the seance and Lottie being possessed is that, to me, it's just a sign that this show is kind of like starting to crash a bit, because like they're really just leaning into cliches now. Like they gave us a cliche seance with a cliche possession. Like it's just giving into all the tropes that you would normally see in something like this. And and I'm not saying this is like you, but like, the show is supposed to be touted as something so crazy, new and different, and yet it's just giving into the same old tropes. Like, why did we need a seance and a possession? Isn't this supposed to be about girl survival? And now you're giving us black magic and ghosts? Like, really? Like, I feel like they're grasping at straws just to keep people interested at this point, and it's a little disappointing.
Okay, Dave.
I will say, thinking about the future timeline, I think there may be a little too many mysteries. Like, there's one with the man with no eyes. There's something going on with Sammy. The woman at the window. The death. Like the postcard. Like they needed to pick one, unless these all tie together
Well, that's
like
what I'm saying, David. They all tie
magnificently.
together with this invisible cord that they've refused to show us, and it's just like, how long can you care? You
Mhm.
And
know,
now we're all thinking that like Misty is orchestrating all of this, or at least that's what my thought
they
was.
want you to think that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they definitely
Like,
want you to think that.
My fear is it's going to
I,
be Misty's going to be like, I just wanted all of us to be friends again. And then
That's
they're going
what
to
I mean,
you're going to find out the real big bad after
I
that.
think the show is continually trying to make you think a certain thing, and it's getting so obvious that it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, we're
And
all smart enough
secondly,
to catch on.
my turn on the supernatural. I think that I didn't love it because the seance I felt like was so random. There was no, there's not a single sense that Jackie is interested in. Like it just was like, let's have a seance. It was just, it's so silly. And then the process, they took it extremely seriously. They like all knew it. Like
I
it
don't
was,
think so.
it
I
felt
think
like religious to them. Like they were like ready. They had candles on these dots. Like it was like perfectly orchestrated to like exactly meet whatever ritual that you're supposed to do. Like they obviously woke something up, but somehow they knew perfectly how to do it. It's
I
just, and the thing rushing through it, and then of course the crazy pills and Lottie, like that was like way too on the nose, and it's kind of almost unfair. Like why is she the host? Like it better be clear at some point.
Do you
I don't
guys
know.
feel like it was orchestrated? I thought it was. I thought at first the seance started as some big joke where the girls were asking stupid questions. They were like floating a knife in the air. It didn't seem very coordinated to me from when I was watching it.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
saying it's
don't.
orchestrated yet. I'm just saying it felt like the writing was poor. Like the writing
Yeah,
doesn't lead you there organically. They just force it.
Yeah,
That's how it felt. Just like,
they're
and
giving
if it's
Jackie.
orchestrated, then maybe that makes sense. Then like hopefully that
I
does. But
I will say I don't fully agree with Johnny because the dead man that they're all afraid of in the attic. So that's kind of why they're doing a séance. I think it's a bit of a stretch that Jackie recommend. Like it's not a stretch, but it's like a little bit out of nowhere. But it is,
Ham
I
fisted.
guess, a high school girl thing, maybe.
I really don't think. I think they're forgetting their state of mind. They're a little bit being silly. Like you do a
But
séance when
that
you're
that's
safe in your parents' house. You don't do a séance when you're abandoned in the woods trying to survive on deer meat.
I disagree with that because you see them start the episode with a dance party, right? They're like clearly trying to keep their sanity. They're clearly
That was
trying
the
to keep
perfect
their
scene.
morale up, right? Yeah, and I'm actually watching this other show called The Terror, season one, about a bunch of sailors stuck out in the Antarctic. Their ships
Scurvy.
are stuck in ice and they can't
That was a
leave.
good season.
And they threw this carnival to cheer the men up, and that's all I'll say about the episode. But it's like just kind of a way to take people's minds off of their current predicament.
But
And that's how I saw.
a carnival and a seance are different things.
I know, but I just think that the seance, the way that they framed it, right in the beginning, like asking the dumb questions, was a way to kind of inject some humor and some lightheartedness into these scares, the creaking noise upstairs, the dead body that they found. I saw it as that more.
I get it.
Yeah.
I do get it. I didn't like
Yeah.
it, and you knew I was gonna feel that way anyways.
Yeah.
It was like at the in the first episode at the high school party in the woods where Jackie's like, all right, everybody line up and say something nice about
Right.
one another. I feel like they're trying to ham fist that she's not very good. She's like, she doesn't really have much skill other than these like random icebreaker kumbaya moments, which is fine. Every group needs that, but I
Yes.
wonder when that is going to crack, because you can only do that so long. You can
Right.
only do that for so long with a
Well,
character.
that's what they're hinting.
Yeah.
So.
I am going to ask one more quick question, and then we can move on to the theories and then your ratings for the episode. I saw this episode a second time, and what I noticed was the four main ladies in the present day timeline, not in the wilderness timeline, are kind of bad. Like, they're mean. Like, Lottie spies on everyone. Shauna threatened her daughter with a divorce. Natalie threatened to burn a man alive. And Taissa, what did Taissa do?
You said Lottie, you meant Misty.
Misty, sorry about that. Misty put a camera into Natalie's hotel room. I forget what Taissa did this episode. She did something mean as well.
She frames her. She makes it seem like someone from the opposite
Right.
political party wrote something derogatory on her home.
Also,
And
did
it's
anyone
actually her
notice?
son.
Her family.
Did anyone else notice when she doubled down on that, the man with no eyes appeared?
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah, there was that one quick scene with the man with no eyes.
Yeah.
And I think, it got me thinking, like, what if we're starting out season 1 with the bad guys, We're watching the bad guys.
Are you spoiling this right now?
No, I'm not. I'm just,
Alright.
this is a simple episode observation. So, like, do you guys, like, what do you, like, are you just still not interested in that timeline at all? Like, you don't care? Or
I don't care, just because it's just nothing is happening really. Like
Yeah.
they're just kind of farting around with this. Like, yeah, I get you think you're being blackmailed, but you're really just running in place at this point.
Mhm.
And I will say that Shauna's standoff with her daughter and doing the whole mutually destruction. What was it? Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a great scene of the episode, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought it was clever and smart, and just the look on her daughter's face afterwards, it just was played out so well, and
Yeah.
it was fantastic.
It's still
It's not enough to make me believe that it should exist, but I did love it a lot.
Is it clear yet if her daughter was born in the wilderness or not?
No, I was trying to do the
Very
math.
clear that she's not.
It doesn't add up, right?
25
Because
years,
it's
yeah.
been 25 years. Her
Okay, so
daughter is still in
25?
high
Okay,
school.
okay.
So that's another mystery to add to the list. Okay. Well, thank you for
Another
entertaining
one.
me. I'm going to move to theories. Does anyone have any theories
Can
that
I
they want to
ask
add?
you quickly a question, Stephen?
Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you did not like the future timeline? Like, did it? I don't want it to get spoilers, but I just want to know if you were always on board with it.
I think that for me, what I viewed it as was a character study of, like, the lingering after effects of, like, a traumatic experience.
Can you do me a favor? Can you look at it not like that? Can you look at it as entertainment?
As a what?
As entertainment, which is what it is.
Yeah,
It's
but,
not
like,
a character study, it's entertainment. And if it's a character study, then that's a class that I can take and pay money.
but,
Or I
like,
can watch a show for entertainment.
I mean, you watch Breaking Bad for entertainment, but the entertainment comes from the fact that it's a character
But
study.
When you say character study, that means experimental, and you're trying to figure something
That's not
out.
what I mean.
I mean, that's what it implies, study.
I mean, that's what you think that I'm saying it
I feel like
implies,
these
but
girls
gosh.
would.
I can see why
This
Johnny
is
would
some
say that,
absolute
though.
truth. I'm
But,
just saying, Don't
Yeah,
call
does
it its character study. Like, is it
I
were
guess
you
I was.
always entertained? Like, you're justifying why it's bad by saying, "Well, I understood that it was a character study." Like, no, it's supposed to be
yeah.
entertainment, and if it's
Sounds like you're
entertainment,
making
it's bad.
excuses for it a bit.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Let's see. So how would okay?
Well, if I can,
Did you always think it was good?
without even divulging too deep into the story, I would ask: is there a point in this show where you're like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm with it," or were you
I
always
think
100% gung ho for this show?
no. I wasn't. I was up and down for a bit, and then after that, I don't want to say anything else. But
And then he
yeah.
was all up, Daddy, ready to go.
So it's hard to say anything without.
No,
That's
that's
Anyway,
fine.
fine.
I was
If you
just curious. I was curious.
yeah, if you think
Let's
it's
go to
gonna
the
spoil anything,
theories.
then you can leave it.
Yeah,
Can I go first?
yeah. Go
To
for
the
it.
theories and stuff, because I've been kind of not too specific, and I'm starting to get
Yeah, I'll
like.
say so.
I still will stand by. I think almost everything is a constant red herring. I feel like everything is laced to make you think another thing. But I do think that I think Taissa painted the door herself, and I think she framed her son, and I think she set up that whole political thing herself. And I think I can't really speak to Shauna stuff too much, even though I want to, because unfortunately that was the spoiler that I saw, and if it's right, then even that couple words I saw could lead me down a path to figure too much out. So I'm not gonna say too much, but um, I also think that Misty right now, and probably as you're supposed to think, I think Misty is the arbiter of a lot of information, and I don't know if she's good or bad. I don't know any of that, but I think she's probably a little deeper into the story. I think the lover. I will say this: I think Shauna's lover has an agenda. That I don't. I'm not spoiling. I really think that he has an agenda. I think this episode picked up on it, and I think that it's going to come to fruition very quickly. And I think something's going to happen with that, like dramatically. Um, and then for Natalie, I think that I think I think they're not focusing on her. She's almost like this, like she's just like the result of a situation, and you're almost supposed to think of her like as oh wow, this happened, oh that chick, like she's like mad and always reactive. I guess that's what I'm saying. She's constantly reactive, and I think that's a front. So like I'm just picking up my red herring thing, but I'm getting a little more specific. I think Natalie is potentially leading the group through this issue, this blackmail in the future. And I'm speaking all to the future because I think that is the timeline that is the issue, because the past timeline has the creative freedom to be experimental because they're telling a story through that. But the future timeline doesn't have that freedom because there's this like invisible thread that's supposed to tie it all together, and they won't let us see it in the future. It's okay to not see it in the past because it's still developing, but the future, it's like if it feels like you're leaving us hanging. So anyway, those are my predictions for the
All right.
future timeline.
Does anyone have any predictions before we move to ratings?
I don't have predictions more so than I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. But so my thing about this so far is every time we see Jackie, like in the future, when Shauna sees like when she thinks she sees Jackie, she's always wearing her soccer uniform. Like she's like a ghost in her soccer uniform.
Yep.
Which leads me to believe that there's going to be some kind of showdown, maybe between Jackie and Shauna, and maybe whatever side Jackie decides to take up. Like maybe because it's obvious that Jackie is finding it hard to fit in the wilderness while everyone else is acclimating pretty well. Part of me thinks that Jackie is going to try and like a lot of people are going to turn on her because they're going to think she's useless and she doesn't contribute much, and she's going to try and use her uniform as like team unity to try to get everyone back together, even though everyone's going to kind of be like going at each other and not listening to her. And that's going to lead to a showdown between her and Shauna, and I think Shauna is the one that kills Jackie after they fight when it's revealed that Shauna and Jeff cheated on Jackie.
Got it. So let me write. I'm gonna write all that down. Thank you,
It's
Nick.
pretty
Noah,
good,
Dave.
Nick.
I'm
It's pretty
Didn't
assuming.
write
good.
mine down.
I'm assuming you don't have anything.
Mine's a quick thing. I don't think the supernatural becomes clear cut to the girls, at least in the past. I don't think they ever get a full
Picture of it.
confirmation of supernatural witch demon whatever it is. I think
Yeah,
they always have a point where they can deny it.
They have an agency component the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that the supernatural that this show is alluding to is leaning more towards like the ghosts of the past. Like Steven, you brought up like shared experience. I view the future girls as like soldiers coming back from war. Like they going through like traumatic stuff. Yeah, like PTSD, but in that same breath, you feel like they would be bonded way more after going through that experience. So there's got to be something that like lays a seed of mistrust, that even though they've come out of this together, they all mistrust each other.
As captured by that final scene, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you again for sharing updates on your theories. I'm going to continue to keep track. We're going to move on to scores real quick. Johnny, hit us with your score for this episode.
Do you have our scores from the previous 2 episodes?
I do. Yeah.
They have our scores from all the episodes.
So episode 3 was episode 3 was a 5, and then episode 4 was a 4.
Okay.
I'll give this a 6.
Give this a 6. Okay.
Oh, I explained this, so yeah, I'll give it a 6. I won't rewatch it again. If the series proves itself, maybe it'll find itself valuable. But this is the last straw.
Yeah. David, what about you?
I'm gonna give this episode 5 a 7 in hopes that it goes higher than this, because like this is like the best that the show's been, but it's still frustrating.
You're pulling a Johnny right now.
I hope this is not the highest. Like this is a very optimistic 7. Very, very.
David
very
is taking
optimistic.
the future that he doesn't know, and he's applying it in the past to this.
You are calling the calling the kettle black, Johnny. You did that last episode.
I know.
All right. No, give us your final score.
Okay, my final score is 6. I can't give it a 5 or 4 because I did think it was better than the last 2, and there was a lot of good moments of this episode, like I mentioned before. I will, if I was to rewatch the series again, I'd go 1, 2, and then this episode, I would skip 3 and 4. So I would rewatch this episode.
Thank you. Nick?
I'm going to give this episode a 5 because even though I liked it, it's painfully just above. It's still painfully average because the other ones just weren't that good.
All right. With
Nick
the final...
low-key hates this show.
Yeah, he does.
I'm waiting for this show to... I was told this show was amazing, and I'm waiting for it, and it's 5 episodes. Yeah. We're halfway through the season, and I'm tired of waiting.
Yeah.
I can't
That's true. I
can't get mad at them.
Yeah. I'm going to end this episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 5 review of Yellowjackets, which is called Blood Hive. We can be found on Twitter and Instagram at The Spooky Screen. We'll be coming to TikTok and YouTube shortly at the hands of our fearless leader, Johnny. And we ask that you join us for the next episode, which is going to be a review of the horror movie Hush. Until then, we'll see you, and stay spooky, everyone.
Stay spooky.
This weapon gimmick is out of control.